Welcome, everyone. I am so glad that you are here with us today. I am with our transition guru, Dr. Quinn Perkins. So thank you so much for being here today with us.
Good morning, Dr. Taylor. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Dr. Quinn, tell us a little bit about your background.
So, for about 15 years, I worked in transition in a school district in Texas, and I was first a transition teacher, which is also affectionately known as 18 plus. And so this program was for kiddos who were 18 to 22 years old. And we worked on life skills, essentially. We worked in domains of the independent living, recreation and leisure, employability, and education and training. So ways to continue learning. And then I moved to a district level position where I was over 6 high schools and set up all of the employment across 6 high schools, worked within the realm of all the resources that were available to us in this community. And then I got very frustrated by the system and by not knowing enough. And I decided to pursue my doctorate in special education. But my dissertation was on um, transition planning with culturally and linguistically diverse families. And even now, I still notice on the other side of the table as an advocate, I still notice the disparity between those who are culturally and linguistically diverse.
For some of our viewers, they may not know exactly what an IEP transition plan, especially some of our parents that have younger children with IEPs. So tell us what an IEP transition plan and why it's important for a child's future.
The transition plan is a part of the IEP. And if you have a young child, as you read through the IEP, you'll see a spot that's marked transition. And oftentimes, until your child is older, it just says not needed, not needed. And oftentimes you'll hear that said across the United States. So federal law says at age 16, there has to be a transition plan in place. And that is that area of the IEP. Now, there are many states, there's about 32 states that implement this at age 14. And a lot of times, if you have a unique circumstance, you can also implement that a bit earlier. I've seen it as early as 12 on some of our special, like autistic children that might just need a little bit more time. I have a case, a client, they are brilliant set of girls. They're 14 years old and they're taking high school level classes. And there has been some issues with that. And I said, oh, why haven't we started a train? Well, they're 13. I'm sorry, excuse me. They're 13 years old. This is a case where we should have started transition planning when they were 12 or earlier, because they're already taking, and as a middle school student, they have multiple credits for high school already. So we should have started that planning earlier. That's a case example. So the IEP it defines out where we're going in the future. It says these are the things that your student is interested in or your child is interested in and likes, and they see this as a career goal or a job goal, and it points that direction, and everything below it holds it and says, this is what we're doing, how to get there to that goal.
Okay. And that would be for any child, regardless of their level of cognitive functioning or their ability.
Absolutely. Everybody gets one.
Okay, perfect. So what type of assessments are part of a transition plan or should be a part of transition planning?
Well, and assessments are the very bottom layer, right? Like they are the very first thing that has to happen and take place. So the transition, there are formal and informal assessments. The formal assessments, like Brigance. And there's a couple others out there. And then there's these informal ones, which you can Google transition assessments and you'll see lots of them come up. There are also visual ones for those kiddos who maybe aren't as verbal and can't just sit and discuss. They they can be shown pictures like, do you want to live in a house? Do you want to live in an apartment? Some things like that. So you have to have the transition assessment in order in fact, it has to be based on transition assessments. Their post-secondary goals, the transition services, it all has to be based on that. So any type of assessment can be used. I like to have a good formal one, at least one formal one for every student across the board. They don't have to do a formal one every year, but going in as a freshman into high school, if you don't know, the child has no idea what they want to do or be or become and is completely out there, a good formal assessment will cover all the areas, all of those domains. It's going to cover that recreation and leisure. It's going to, and community involvement. It's going to cover independent living and adult living skills. It's going to cover instruction and furthering your education. It's going to cover employment as a whole. And so one good formal is essential. And then from that, year to year, you build on these other assessments you use. If we know that there's a gap in employment, then we do something really heavily focused on employment. If we know there's a gap in independent living, I don't know where I want to live, then we dig into that, right? And so there's hundreds of informal assessments.
Okay, okay. So and you just mentioned the types of goals that, I'm sorry, the type of assessments that should be involved in transition planning. So are those types of assessments tied to the type of goals that should be included in a transition plan?
Yes. So what happens is this is the whole layout of what should happen. The child is given it's a youth, it's a young adult, essentially. They are given these assessments. The outcomes of the assessments are what we use to outline strengths and interests, because it's going to cover that. And then we use those to cover the post-secondary goals. So you have to have at least two post-secondary goals. One, by law, you have to have these. One is in education and training, and the other one is in employment. So a lot of times they'll even combine that and say, after high school, Joey will go to Louisiana State University and study marine biology so he can become a biologist. That is both goals all encompassed in one. The other goal is called independent living skills. And this is not about where they're going to live. It's not about, oh, they're going to live in a house. They're going to live in a dorm. It's not about where they're going to live. It's about the skill they need in order to be independent. It could be driving. It could be navigating the community. It could be they will live in a dorm and take care of their responsibility of chores and paying their bills. So it could be multiple skills within there. It's just how it's worded. So you're going to have those three goal, your post-secondary goals. And these goals are for what takes place after high school. And I've seen quite a few that they're like, no, this is what happens during high school. No. To be measurable to all the things that has to be after high school. Then they're going to take the transition plan. They're going to take those post-secondary goals and they're going to look at what is needed to reach those post-secondary goals. And there's 5 areas that they're going to look at. They're going to look at instruction. And this is a broad range of activities that promotes access to school curriculum. And it helps students gain the needed skills and move towards those post-secondary goals. So it could be areas focused on college, and it could be areas focused on the classroom. So either one. Then the second section is going to be related services. And these are activities that consider the current and projected related service needs of the student. So it could be activities focused on speech, OT, PT, O&M, activities focused on assistive technology. It could be activities that are focused on maybe mental health and behaviors and getting them connected to those services as an adult.
Okay.
Development of employment is a broad range of activities focused on developing work-related behaviors, seeking employment, and actual employment. So these are like getting connected to vocational rehabilitation, work-based learning, CTE, activities focused on gaining employment. We have a lot of students that they're probably not going to ever go and have a career, so to speak. So we're looking at, employment, local community employment, activities that are focused on developing those hard and soft skills, self-determination, and social skills. That should all be in employment. The fourth one is community participation. A lot of times you'll see something like, well, they're in the band, or they're on the cheerleading squad. So but this is a range of activities that prepares the student for community participation. So that band is not going to be there once they graduate high school. Activities, these are going to be activities that are focused on social and recreational development, activities focused on accessing community resources. And one I like to stick in there is getting a gym membership. That is connection to the community, right? Especially like the YMCA or a gym like that offers all types of activities alongside of it. Getting them connected to like a local community. We have a lot of community centers around here where they, they play.
Basketball or
I was gonna say wiffle ball. What's the new pickleball? That's what it is.
oh yes, yeah.
So it's getting them connected so they stay engaged in something and not just sit at home. The last one is the acquisition of daily living skills. And these are skills that these skills are activities that adults do most every day. So you and I, we budget, we maintain a home, we care for clothing, we prepare meals, we groom. Makes me sound like an animal, but we bathe and we take our medicine and we, those are all the things we need to do to live independently. So those are the things. And I think everybody goes, oh, they have independent living skills. They don't need any of this. And I'm like, really? They know how to budget?
Right.
Because my 19-year-old doesn't know how to do that. So, okay.
Yeah.
So those are all the aspects of that transition planning. The other thing that we would include in this from those, because all of this should come from the transition assessments. The only other piece that would be in here is we need to have one annual goal that is connected to transition. So obviously, if they are in like a work-based learning class, it's already connected. If they receive speech, OT, something like that, it's already connected. But a lot of times for those kiddos who are going to go to college or going to go to, looking at an actual career, those kiddos, it's a lot harder to connect it. So you would want to focus on social skills or soft skills, self-determination, self-advocacy, something like that.
Okay. Okay. So, how can a parent ensure that their child's interest and strengths are considered when creating a transition plan? And does that always align, the school and the parents' thoughts? Talk to us a little bit about that.
I don't think they always align at all. Parents have dreams and, parents have a vision for their child, and children have a vision for themselves. And schools, what I've noticed on this side of the table as an advocate, often the schools will say, well, we can't do what you say. parents, we can't take your opinion into consideration. We have to do exactly what the child says. The law makes us do exactly what the child says, which is so not true. Now, typically, you want your child to be a part of this conversation. You want them in that IEP meeting. You want their input. You want their planning. The case that comes to mind, we did not have the child in there, but it was a highly contentious meeting. So we opted to leave him out of it. But if the child is saying, I want to be an actor, and he's saying that at school, and I want to take these classes at school and get into theater, and I want to be an actor and whatnot, and then he comes home and he says, well, actually I think a better idea is business, because that will give me a good background and I can be a part of that theatrical world some way in a business capacity. Especially if they're very quiet and soft-spoken or have anxiety, or there's a lot of skills to develop to become an actor. But even the schools, I've had the schools say the child is like, I want to go to Ohio State University. And the schools come back and say, well, we can't just put one school that they want to go to. We have to put all the schools. Well, that's not true. You don't have to, but you can. So sometimes they just get nitpicky over things. What you want is you want to make sure that the post-secondary goals make sense. And you want to make sure that the services help the student point towards those goals, right? So if they want to go into acting and their post-secondary goal is, I'm going to go to Ohio State University and take acting or to become an actor, then everything that they're doing he should have theater classes in the course of study. There should be, opportunities in the community to get involved in local plays. There should be definitely some kind of training going on for actors have that sense of confidence, and so we need to build that and carry that. You just want a cohesive plan. If the plan doesn't make sense and you don't see it building off of each other, I mean, it literally should be a pyramid and build up. And if you don't see that, then it doesn't matter what the post-secondary goals are. We just need a plan that makes sense.
Okay. So speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about those that would need a more tailored plan to support developing like independent living skills. Those that won't necessarily go to a college or, a trade school or even get a job.
Well, I know I have just both sides of the table, working it, leading it, and now helping teams come up with plans. That is a harder plan to write, right? When you have somebody who will never ever have a job, not even a local job in the community. They're not, you still have to write a transition plan. So let's talk about a student that may have just a local school, a local job in the community. So some of their goal may be, I want to work in a grocery store or somewhere where I can stock things. They find that they're good at stocking and organizing. So the goal might be, after high school, Johnny will be competitively employed part-time at a local grocery store.
Okay.
I think you can do that. In my mind, I think you can do that for somebody who thinks they're going to go to college too. For example, after high school, Johnny will work part-time in an aquarium type environment to prepare him to be a marine biologist. So you can do it doesn't just have to be like 5 years from now they're gonna have this career. It can be we all build. I worked in pizza, right?
Right. Right.
We all worked in those local community jobs. So things that little Johnny who wants to be employed in the grocery store, some things that we might put on his transition services would be, I want them to prepare in a high school career fair, participate in a high school career fair. I want them to meet with vocational rehabilitation to evaluate them for services. I want them to participate in summer earn and learn, which is through vocational rehabilitation. I want them to be in a class that goes into the community and works on job skills. They need to learn about Social Security work incentives, which we can talk about that a little bit. I want them to, they got to get their state identification. If they don't have that yet, they need to go get that because they can't have a job without, without documentation.
Right.
I want them to job shadow or start working on how to complete a job application or interviewing skills. Every person needs to have 20 seconds, like a 20-second introduction, right? Like, my name is Quinn and I am da 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 da, and I want to work here because da 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 da, right? Like, everybody needs to have that 30-second introduction.
Right.
So that's something they can work on. For going to it's called education/training, because Johnny is probably not going to go to college, but he's going to learn on the job. So after high school, Johnny will receive on the job training at that grocery store or other community-based, right? He's going to participate in community-based instruction. He's going to learn and practice social skills. He's going to learn and practice self-determination skills. He's going to learn and practice hard and soft employability skills. And then we're going to connect him to adult services. Then for living independently, Johnny, let's see, I want to make sure I read the right one. After high school, Johnny will live at home and he will complete daily living skills as independently as possible, such as making choices about his leisure time activities, doing household chores, and preparing small meals and snacks, right? So now some of our goals, some of our transition services are going to be explore guardianship or supported decision making,
Right.
visit adult service providers, obtain information on managing health and fitness, probably get him to a gym. There's, a lot of things that we can look at.
Yeah. I had an IEP meeting recently where we had a young man who has a severe cognitive disability. And when it came to the transition planning, it was so sparse, and I could not believe that the team, I won't even say could not, but would not come up with a plan for this baby. Um, and the parents were a little bit disheartened. And the thing about it is that no matter who you are, no matter what level you're at, there is a plan for the future. I don't care if it's volunteering at, the community center and, putting things in a box. Like, there's something that everyone can do to feel like they're a part of society and have a contribution.